Hey, I'm Wes the Explosion, and I've scripted out a typo rant for the Mega Man Timelines comic twice so far and cut it out both times because not only did it feel petty, but I thought it kinda detracted from the reviews that I was putting out. You wanna know what's there, is it good, what neat references and implications are stuffed in, and presumably, what I think of the overall product, not whether they use proper grammar. I'm an English nerd, and reading is my second favorite hobby though, so this sort of thing matters to me. And while hearing me yammer on about typos might seem boring, the one set has a lot of people yucking it up, so if you stick around, you should at least get a chuckle out of it. Though I will admit the other one is pretty dry. I'll do this a little out of order and start with the big enchilada, the Guardians' names in Mega Man Zero timelines. I'll just pop these up on screen, though you'll probably notice it when I say them out loud. Harpoonia, Phantom, and Fenrir. As long as you heard two things that sounded off, we're on the same page, but just in case not, what I should have said was Harpooia, Phantom, and Fafnir. Probably Leviathan too, come to think of it. There's a Norse substitution with Fafnir, going from a tweaked dragon's name to the giant wolf of Ragnarok, and given that Fenrir is a lot better known than Fafnir, I can kind of understand the mix-up. Harpoonia, though, makes me raise an eyebrow twice, so both of them are just kinda hovering there. The wiki credits the name Harpooia as being taken from Harpy, which makes sense, he is a bird-like humanoid Reploid, though this does kind of eliminate the possibility that there's some ancient mythological figure with a similar name that his is getting confused with. At least I couldn't find any hits for Harpoonia. He also gets called Harpoonia after being a bit of a smartass, so at first, I thought maybe it was a joke, inserting the word pun into his name. But then we get the other weird part of the problem. He's called Harpoonia twice, which makes it seem like it was on purpose. This then made me question whether there wasn't a new localization that I missed out on. Maybe they found a more accurate translation all these years later, or they messed up his name in the original game, but decided to keep it that way for consistency and then thought now was the perfect time to correct it. But if this were the case, I'm pretty sure we'd get at least one person, actually, ing this. On the contrary, despite my best efforts to come up with excuses, we get a post stating that Udon is aware of the issue, meaning that it is, in fact, an issue. Assuming we can trust the post, the icon does look familiar, that just means that they mistakenly inserted an extra letter into Harpooia's name twice, which is weird. They did get Phantoms right though, and as for Leviathan, despite actually being there, her name isn't even mentioned once, so hopefully they would have gotten it correct. Regardless of how that would have turned out though, these mistakes were enough that I have seen quite a bit of discussion on them. My first tangent though really was too small to warrant time in the video, and if it weren't for the bigger issue, I'd probably just sit on it. Honestly, there's a part of me that wonders if I'm mistaken, though I'm pretty sure I'm not, but at one point in X timelines, X says, "But still, I must fight so that others won't have to," with two O's. And I don't believe that's correct. Two O's should be in place of very, or as well, and neither of those fit if you swap them out. Then again, grammar and spell check doesn't give any squiggles when I type the sentence out with either a 2-TOO or a 2-TO, so maybe it works both ways due to some odd clause that I don't know about. I think I actually hate this one more than Harpoonia, since with that, it's obviously wrong, but here, since I haven't seen it brought up elsewhere and Microsoft Word doesn't seem to care, I'm questioning whether I'm wrong and thus, my entire video will crumble due to my foolish and presumptuous mistake. Guess we'll see if I get a bunch of comments on it. But does any of this really even matter? I personally think that it looks kind of unprofessional and slapdash, but I can also understand why others might not think it's important and just nitpicky. Honestly, I could see a lot of people not caring as long as the illustrations look good and even just glossing right over mistakes as long as they're nothing too major. I guess another way to put it would be that different people are gonna notice different things. I noticed the two thing right away, but when I ran it past other people, while they all agreed I was right, that was only after some prodding or just outright pointing it out, and it sure didn't get a Reddit post, at least that I saw. Meanwhile, the Harpoonia and Fenrir thing got two, and in a podcast discussion I listened to, they couldn't stop making jokes about it. While I think I would have noticed the name mistakes, my first reading was pretty rushed, so I actually saw it on Reddit first, the thread complaining about it being the second link that came up when I was looking into discussion on the comic the day after. Given that I also needed Bill Zard Buffalo pointed out to me, I might be more sensitive to grammar than spelling mistakes, and looking through the Reddit thread, there were a lot of people that didn't notice the error until it was pointed out. I think most people, as long as something is close enough, their brain can just kind of fix or rearrange things so that they make sense. Or maybe they don't really know the difference between homophones. I guess you could say that while striving for perfection should be the aim, as long as it's minor and understandable, it's close enough. More than a typo, something written awkwardly, even if grammatically correct, would be worse, like, say, the entire script for X Dive. So if it's not all that important, then why are we talking about it? Well, the 2-2 thing is because I'm a huge nerd. The Guardians, though, is because those were pretty major mistakes. Even if not everybody noticed, plenty did. In part, it's because these were on character names, which people are going to place more focus on than word choice. Combine that with how for Fafnir, they confused one mythological name for another, and with Harpuya, they made the same mistake twice. If an error had been made with, say, Zero's name, them spelling it Zrio, most would roll their eyes, but they'd understand a typo when they saw it. Calling Jake Jack and someone else the wrong thing 2 times, though, comes across like you're not actually familiar with who you're talking to. It's every introvert's nightmare. So while no one cares about my gripes, they certainly do about these, and I can't blame them. And of course, the medium also plays a factor. Mega Man is no stranger to dialogue mistakes, but when you're playing a game, gameplay tends to be the bigger focus. A lot of these even become inside jokes and get memed into infinity, but when the script is one of, and to some, the biggest draw, people are probably gonna raise more of a stink. Or maybe Harpuya will be the prevailing joke of all Mega Man Zero playthroughs going forward, but whether they're laughing with or at might be open to interpretation. Hopefully though, these sell well enough that we get corrected reprints, those become the prevailing editions out in the world, and early adopters are left with super rare, defective copies that we can sell for oodles of cash if times ever get rough. I got 3 versions of each, suckers! Still though, this isn't the first time I noticed something like this in Udon's publication, so... If you need a proofreader, Udon, I'll work for free books and a credit. Just kidding! Unless... But I think I've whined enough about stuff that most people aren't going to pay attention to, so let me turn it back to you before we wrap up. Did you notice any of these? Any others that I missed? And do you care, find them unimportant, or maybe even funny? And how was my delivery? Was some of this hard to follow? With that, we'll call it here, so thanks as always for watching, and maybe consider subscribing if you're into retro games, especially Mega Man. For everlasting grammar.